they didn't They didn't like it because we didn't say spit and polish like they did all the time. But you know, when you're working 20 hours a day, it's hard to keep the boots shining. So
yeah.
I heard that same excuse from him. You rolling?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, welcome to WarWhiskey Podcast. I'm Justin Fisher. I have John Smallwoood, Paul Garrett, and Dwight Withcer, which is still the coolest name.
well, thank you. Guys, I told you.
See, I'll get you somewhere.
There you go.
We knew you'd move up sometime.
All you gentlemen are veterans of the Marine Corps. We've been talking a little bit about your experiences now. John, when were you in?
I went in June of 1967, and I come out in the end of 69.
All right.
I spent 13 months in Vietnam. I was there at the Tet Offensive. I was in I Corps, which is right up on DMZ.
Okay.
For 13 months.
All right, 13 months there. Wow, that's a good.
It was a full tour.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
sir.
I'll tell you that, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Paul, what's your timeline?
I went in the Marine Corps in June of 1965. And I got out in fact, I got early out in February of 69, in February.
All right. Your wife?
Went in July of 69 and got out in July of 73.
Just a youngster.
Youngster.
I started
Punk.
saying the same thing. Started saying the same, just a youngster. Started saying the same thing.
You know, and we talked about, you know, every generation is harder than the one, you know.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute.
How'd y'all meet?
Marine Corps League.
Well, we met Dwight.
Yeah.
Well, I met. And then met Paul, believe it or not, in church.
Yeah.
I know that's extra hard to believe, but that is the
Brains in
truth.
church?
Yeah.
I tell you.
Two of them.
Two of them,
We
yeah.
asked
Two.
for forgiveness on our daily Trust me.
So for the audience, what is the Marine Corps League? What is that?
It is a veterans service organization, very similar to American Legion, VFW, so forth. It's made up primarily of Marine Corps veterans and Navy FMF corpsmen and chaplains. You can be an associate member. Your lovely wife is an associate member. She's helped us out so much over the last couple of years. We just paid her dues and drafted her.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, we have, in the state of Arkansas, we have 7 detachments scattered out in northwest Arkansas, Russellville, Mena, Conway, Little Rock, Russellville, Texarkana, and I think that's all of them. But, you know, we try to get out and get involved in the community and do what we can to spread the good news about the Marine Corps now that we're out of it, and you know, just try to be some kind of leadership example in the community.
And we step in and help. The Marine Corps has had a lot of budget cuts, so they tend to call us a lot of times for funerals, for
Right.
Marine veterans and
Right.
and other people. So we step in and help the India Company 323 over here.
Yeah, Reserve Center.
Reserve. We help them with things of that nature, and maybe try to cook for them when they have cookouts, and just do general funky stuff for them.
How big is the local chapter?
The local Little Rock chapter, I think we have probably close to 40 members, but many of those, clearly half of them are lifetime members from early Vietnam days and even Korean days, so they're not able to be active anymore. We have, you know, on a real good meeting, we'll have 16 to 20 people.
Okay.
Always looking for more. We're looking for younger people. Obviously, we're getting a little long in the tooth. We try to get as many younger Marines as we can, because we're not going to be around forever. Even though Paul and John go to church together, you know, they're not going to live. I don't think they'll live forever.
Well, that's your opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang on as long as I can.
Oh yeah.
So how does, say I'm a Marine, I was Coast Guard and Marine, How do I join? He was. That's what I'm doing. I'm born and bred Army. He was a Coast Guard and Marine. Oh my. So.
Just,
How does he join?
How does he join? If he just hangs around about 10 seconds when we
After-
get
after we
through.
go, we'll have you hooked up.
Bring you $35, and we'll give you a little form to fill out. We'll give you a month on that if you want it. Yeah.
We won't even take your temperature like you had COVID or anything.
Yeah, run a swab.
No, we
Yeah.
encourage all Marines. We try to do community projects. In
Right.
fact, I know you're familiar with it. Our big project we just completed was getting a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument placed on the state capitol grounds.
It's gorgeous. That's an amazing monument.
It is. I appreciate that. It is an amazing monument, and it came through the Marine Corps League. In fact, Dwight,
Kind of hatched the idea and turned it over to these guys.
yeah, sort of
The rest is history.
heard about it and told us how easy it was going to be.
You
3.5
heard about
years
that,
later, and
Yeah, you heard about it,
50,000
Tulsa,
miles.
Oklahoma, did you?
Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 2016, they had the National Marine Corps League Convention there, and I was sitting in a presentation by the West Virginia delegation who was putting their bid in for the National Convention, and they mentioned that Herschel Woody Williams, who's the last remaining Medal of Honor recipient from the Battle of Iwo Jima, he has a foundation, and the very first, he designed, or had designed, a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument that he put in West Virginia. And it went over so incredibly well, the first one, that some people down the road in the same state wanted another one, and then people from Virginia saw it and heard about it, and they wanted one, and as the snowball goes down the hill, they decided, well, every state in the Union needs one of these. And this was still kind of early on in the process, so as soon as I got home, I called the Woody Williams Foundation and said, hey, I just heard about this. We do not have one in Arkansas. Is there anybody working on one? I introduced myself, told them I was the Marine Corps League. And they said no. As a matter of fact, we just left a staff meeting about 30 minutes ago, and we were going through the list of states that has not been contacted about it yet. And of course, Arkansas, starting with an A, was at the top of the list. And I said, well, just count us in. So went back to the next detachment meeting and told them what I found, and talked these guys into co-chairing the committee for it, and 3 years and $414,000 later, we had a monument. So.
And it's gorgeous. It's a great location at the Capitol. I encourage everybody to go out and, everybody who hasn't seen it yet, I've got to go see it several times, so.
Yeah.
Very beautiful, very nice.
It gets more breathtaking every time you see it. I've
Yeah.
driven by there 100 times, and it just,
And as a combat veteran, I know you can appreciate what these families
Right.
have sacrificed, which that was Woody's main objective when he started this, was the soldiers. We get recognized quite a bit, you know, in the sacrifice that soldiers have made, the ultimate sacrifice and all, but the families, their sacrifice is just as great as anybody, but they sort of got swept by the wayside until he came up with the idea of these monuments.
Right.
So that was our reasoning. We wanted to get that done, and we decided that the Capitol grounds would be the ideal place to put it. Little did we know what we were asking for.
yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, we're a little naive going into that, but we learned pretty fast.
Right.
One of the humorous things to me looking back on it was when we was all at Nabots, and they come out with them bids, and they handed each one of us as Eddie Joe Williams, the Senator Eddie Joe Williams,
Right.
and Paul Dwight, who else was there? That was it. Yeah, well, yeah, but when they handed us and we're all sitting there, you know, and now we got the bids in. What was one of them? $750,000,
Yeah.
and we're thinking $150,000. We'll have this baby knocked out in a year because everybody's going to want this monument, and nobody moved. Nobody looked up. Nobody done anything. I was sitting at the end and I was looking at it. Nobody. It was just they just locked in on that bid. And finally, Nabot stepped up, and 3.5 years, wasn't it? 3.5
about
years.
3.5 years, yeah.
Standing on street corners with helmets in our hands, begging for money, and we got it. The people give, and finally the dedication day. I don't know if you was there or not. Was you there when we dedicated?
No, I wasn't.
Good, because we were about to die. It was 180 degrees.
It was hot.
And we had on them red Marine Corps League wonderful jackets.
Right.
They're so pretty, everybody says. And we just melted down. And we're in Semper Fi. Did you get your Semper Fi magazine, Paul?
I haven't. When'd you get it?
Today.
Well,
Okay.
you probably will never get one again.
I probably won't after the
Stuff you
before.
pulled. And me, you know, I seen my promotion go out the window when I said John Goddard Blathers on, and I shouldn't have said that, but I didn't know he was on the other end. So, but anyway, go ahead. What do y'all want to talk about?
Yeah, I really like the monument. It's like I said, it's breathtaking, and it's
Beautiful.
greatly appreciated. And a lot of people don't understand what families lose when they
Right.
lose someone. And I tell this, I had a guy in my first deployment in our unit. They named the athletic center, Troy Miranda. They named it after him. Was killed in Iraq in an ambush. Same thing we was talking about earlier.
Right.
The other part of that was this whole other incident that night. He died. I almost saved that for a different time though. He was killed. In action. A lot of people don't know that family, that unit in particular. He had 2 brothers die previous to that. Not in combat, but in accident later. So the unit typically took 3 people
Wow.
from one family.
Yeah.
Now he's on the wall up here on the memorial, and he's up at the Capitol. Yeah, he died in combat.
Wow.
Put an IED in the doorway. It's not what you can do about it.
No.
Yeah, it's a terrible deal. But it just means a lot that someone recognizes that. Because a lot of people don't understand that aspect of it. They understand what you've lost.
Yeah.
Especially that one family loss. There's 2 other brothers are gone before him.
That's extra tough.
Right.
Mm.
So clearly, we got 2 gentlemen that go to church because of their sins in the Marine Corps.
Well, and others.
Well, I did before the virus hit.
When I got out of the Marine Corps. Yeah.
What made y'all join the Marine Corps? Let's think back to I'll just say mid-60s, maybe late 60s. What made y'all join?
I went in, these 2 guys, like I was telling you a while ago, my dad was my stepdad. He was in submarines, and I wanted to kind of follow that. So 2 of my friends in high school got out, and they decided to go. So we went up, took the physical in Oklahoma City,
Right.
and the last time I seen them, the door was on the elevator was closed, and then they was giving me the one finger wave because the Navy wouldn't take me. He said my physical. So I'm sitting there wondering, what am I going to do? And I guess I'll go back to Muskogee. Well, Staff Sergeant stepped around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You want in the Marine Corps? Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah. And he said, well, you see that line of boys over there, their face against the wall? I said, yeah. He said, well, you go join them. And I did. And it started then. And I got on the bus to go to California. They had us on the bus, and they told us to put our hands on our knees and look straight ahead and do not look around. Well, no John. I was looking around, and he come back and told me to gouge my eyes out. I moved again. And that was the start of the Marine Corps for me.
I love it. I love it. Paul, what's your...
Well, of course, 1965, I've been out of high school a little over a year, I guess, and drifting around, and I had a cousin that lived in North Little Rock, and of course, on weekends, we'd go over for an adult beverage, at the Little Rock Inn.
Yeah, I've heard of those, yeah.
We don't have any here, but we've heard of them.
Yeah, we'll make a note of that for
Okay,
next time, yeah.
okay.
So, anyway, I think we probably had maybe 1 or 2 more we should have that night, so we're talking about it. Thought maybe joining the service would be a good thing, and I said, well, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So we decided to join the Marine Corps.
What were you drinking to join the Marine Corps?
Too many Budweisers.
Boy, there must be a lot more lead on that thing.
It was in the 60s, wasn't it?
What was you, Dwight?
Oh, I was kind of like Paul. I graduated in '67. I was knocking around trying to figure out what Uncle Sam was going to do with me, and got a draft letter. I don't know, the end of '68, early '60, whenever it was. So I drove down to Little Rock to look at all the recruits and recruiters and see what the options were instead of going to the Army. And I'd always mechanically inclined, always building hot rods and wrecking hot rods and then rebuilding them. And I thought, well, I ought to join the Air Force and work on airplanes. That'd be kind of the ultimate. So went in the Air Force recruiter, and they informed they had a waiting list that stretched out to 1974. So
Wow.
that was kind of out. So I talked to the Navy, and they said, yeah, we've got naval aviation, but everybody has to go to one year of sea duty. I said, they haven't built a boat that I like yet, so that bit me in the ass.
Yeah.
So I walked out of the Navy recruiter, and I turned right, and I had no idea at the time that the Marines and the Navy was locked at the hips. So I turned right, and there was a picture of an F-4 Phantom taking off. It had Marines on it, and it said Marine Aviation. So the guy met me at the door, and I said, tell me about Marine Aviation. He said, well, you got to join for 4 years, and you got to pass the aptitude test, but, we'll get you in aviation if you pass all the tests. But first you got to join.
Yeah.
So I did. And went back home and told my dad that, or told my folks that night what I'd done, and my dad said, son, what the hell were you thinking? Seemed like a good idea at the time, Dad. So but I took the aptitude test and ended up in an F-4 fighter squadron, exactly what I wanted. But little did I know that the Marine Corps loves to go on carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So in 72, we were deployed to the USS America. Went to North Atlantic and then the Mediterranean and then the Eastern Mediterranean around Egypt, and that's when Russia still had bases in Egypt, so they would buzz our carrier deck all the time with their bombers and fighters. And then we got home and everybody went home for Christmas and came back in January of 72, and we already had orders to go back on the America, but this time it was to Vietnam. So we got there in July of 72 and left in March after we were there January 27th when the last bombs were dropped, last active duty stuff. So hung around for about a month and didn't have anything to do after working 20-hour days, and 30-day trip back home, and I was out 4 months later.
Wow. So you just signed. We all just signed up. We all just joined the military or joined the Marine Corps. What happened next? What was basic training like in the early, mid, late 60s?
Start with the oldest guy here.
Walk me through that.
Well,
what would I expect about back then?
it depends. If you went to Hollywood, now you'll have these two guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we wore sunglasses and
Marine
everything.
Corps,
Yeah.
Marine Corps had two
They
basic
issued
training
suntan loads.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Diego, California, MCRD San Diego, where they sent the wannabe Marines, and then they had Paris Island, South
Where
Carolina,
they built the real Marine.
where they built Marines.
You know Marines still fight.
Everything west,
Two old men there.
everybody
It's gonna be
west
two
of the
against one, Paul.
Mississippi goes to San Diego, typically. But it just so happened that there was about 6 of us. They said, oh, by the way, you guys are the chosen ones. You're not going to San Diego, you're going to Paris Island, South Carolina.
Paul was a special need at the time.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So-
We call it the chosen one.
The chosen one, yeah. So we we fly into Atlanta, or to Savannah, I think, and they're gonna bus us from Savannah up to Paris Island, Beaufort, South Carolina. We're sitting there waiting, and I'll never forget this. This cousin of mine, the one that thought we were going for another cold beer, you know, when we boarded the plane. We're sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Of course, we stuck out like two sore thumbs, you know, what age we were and all. This guy,
Paperwork in your hand.
about 20, he was probably about 25. He was looked old to us then, but he was looking there a few minutes and said, "Where you guys headed?" So, "Oh, we're Marines. We're going to Paris Island." He started laughing. He said, "You're Marines, huh?" He said, "You're not Marines yet."
Yeah. He knew.
He said, "Let me tell you guys something." He said, you've heard all these stories about Paris Island, how it is, how tough it is. He said, "And you're telling yourself right now," said, "it's probably not really that tough." He said, "Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not that tough, it's worse." A lot worse. I've thought about that many a time. That bus rolled into Paris Island, and they always manage, seem like, to get there about midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning.
True.
I think they do that on purpose.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And keep you up all night.
we were sitting back. We were on the very back of that bus, and somebody had told us, said, "Oh, you won't get to smoke." At the time, I was smoking. And said, "You won't get to smoke for 2 or 3 days." So this cousin and I, we're sitting very back. Boy, we're getting that last cigarette, you know. Of course, when that DI stepped up on that bus, and in no uncertain terms,
Yeah.
told us how we was going to get off, you know. Well, being the last ones there, we were the last ones in line. And, of course, we wasn't running over anybody to get off. I mean, everybody was shuffling down through there. Well, just as I stepped toward that bottom step, I felt that hand get me right there by that shirt. And I landed about as far as he is sitting over there in the grass. And there was 2 more waiting there. "Get off my Marine Corps grass, you maggot!" "What are you doing?" And that was my introduction to the Marine Corps right there. It was different, to say the least.
Wow. Now, what about the Hollywood Marines? What was that like?
Lead off, John.
Well, evidently it wasn't as bad as Paul. You know, I was, like I said a while ago, you know, and I informed that my eyes were fixing to get gouged out. When we got there, same thing. They come on that bus, and I mean, you know, I heard by then, you know, I was a kid, you know, I mean, well, I was 18 years old, but the language, you know, and you got to sit there and take it, and that I was scared to move. I was scared to get my eyes gouged out. So anyway, we got off there, and it really picked up then from then on. And then on into boot camp there, the drills, that's where I had a little problem. They what is it? Shoulders on arm. What is it called? It's been too many years.
Dress right, dress.
Dress right, dress.
Yeah.
And whenever you turn,
Cover down,
drop
dress
your
right.
arm. I didn't drop my arm. And we were out on the drill field, and all the officers and officers was right there, where everybody could see. And our chief DI come up there, and he was a big, healthy fella, and he gave me a kidney punch. And I never messed up again in boot camp, and made it through. And I even got a couple of weeks cut off of my boot camp because they needed me over in Vietnam. So I got they was hurting at that time in 1968. They was needing Marines,
Right.
and so that was it, I guess, on my boot camp. Go ahead.
Well, you know, there was 4 or 5 of us flew out of Little Rock that day, first time on an airplane, probably y'all's first time on an airplane. But we landed at San Diego, and, you know, like Paul said, you're 18 years old, carrying a big wad of paperwork around, and at San Diego Airport, there was probably 20 of us all kind of gathered around, and a guy in Navy uniform comes in and says, "Where's my Navy recruits?" And all but about 5 or 6 of them raised their hand and said, "Okay, you guys come on over here." And, you know, he was just talking to them like he's their dad or something. And they go out and get on this bus. And I mean, by bus, I mean a coach. I mean, a bus. And, they take off, and about a minute later, a Lance Corporal
With Smokey Bear hat
comes in, and in the public lobby of San Diego Airport is just raising hell, just saying words that I'd not even heard of before, hardly. And he said, "All right, all you maggots line up over here." He marches out of the airport in formation as best as, scared to death 18-year-olds can.
Yep.
And we got in, not on a bus, but on a cattle car.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's already a bunch of guys on there. I guess they flew in. They've probably been sitting on that cattle car for hours. I don't know. So we, go out to San Diego, MCRD San Diego, and pull up. And it's, by this time, as Paul said, it's, California time, it's probably 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And they come on, and they're just cussing and carrying on and saying and giving us instructions that you get off this bus, you have X number of seconds to be on a pair of yellow footprints out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, any stragglers will be killed and note to be sent to your mom.
Any stragglers.
And, of course, that's where it starts, is the yellow footprints, and then you go in, you're processing, getting your hair buzzed, and packing up your clothes, and, sending crybaby notes home. But, I kept remembering that the recruiter said they're not supposed to hit you. They're not supposed to hit you. He didn't say they can't hit you. He just said they're not supposed to hit you. And so I kept that in mind. And about probably 1 o'clock in the morning, this big dude comes in. It turned out to be a staff sergeant. I knew later. And man, he's just sucker punching everybody. Kidney punches, like John said, and coming up, grabbing you from behind like they did Paul. And about 5 in the morning, we go out behind the processing station, and there's another set of yellow footprints, and you make up a platoon out there. And you're standing there just totally exhausted, hungry, scared to death, wondering, what the hell have I got into? And through the light, a guy walks around the building that literally I thought was a grizzly bear in a uniform, And our shirts at that point was just old gray sweatshirts. And he has this jumbo magic marker, and he goes down writing numbers, as you were talking about a while ago. You're the first squad, you're the first man in the first squad, and he goes down, to the 13th man, and he goes the next and goes on over, and he's already given us this talk about, I'm your mother and your father and your brother and your sister and your girlfriend and your wife and everything, and the first word and the last word out of your mouth will be sir, and all of this. And I was in the third squad, probably 4 or 5 guys back, and he was going down the fourth squad, and he marked on this guy's shirt, said, "Okay, you're the fourth man, or you're the 6th man in the fourth squad. You got that?" And the guys goes, "Yeah, Sarge."
Okay.
And it's like everybody sucked all the air out of the atmosphere, boy.
Business picked up.
Just deathly quiet. And I heard him growl, "What did you say?" And he said, "Sir, yes, sir." And he said, "That's not what you said." And I heard 2 thumbs. He hit the kid, and the kid hit the ground. And he told the guy in front of him and back of him, and said, "Pull this piece of whale shit out of my formation. I'm not going to have anybody that can't follow orders." And they pulled him over there, and he was out cold. I mean, out like a light. And we marched off and left the guy passed out on the sidewalk. Got to the Quonset huts, stashed our gear in a bunk, went to breakfast, came back, and the guy was miraculously there. I have no idea how he got there. But I can guarantee you that from now on, the first word and the last word out of his mouth was sir. But that was my introduction.
We have a lot of same experiences, because when I went to basic training, first time I've been on a plane, that was good.
Yeah.
Then cattle trucks.
Yeah, cattle cars.
And I talked about this in a different podcast, but It's really only supposed to put 15 people in there, there's like 75.
Oh, yeah, they were.
It's mathematically impossible to move as fast as they want you to move.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the Sarge thing, no one said Sarge, but that's like the worst thing you can ever call it NCO. And like, they don't understand, like, it's actually a fish that eats off the bottom of the ocean. I absolutely hate it. I'll murder someone over it. Give me a day, that is absolutely true. I have killed people over that. I don't feel bad, I don't use that word. Give me a day, one day at basic training. Give me the chosen ones first. One day, not just the beginning of it, just give me like a normal training day.
A normal training day.
Right.
Well, everybody had to stand an hour or two of fire watch, they called it.
Yes.
So,
Fire guard, yeah.
so
Yep.
you had to lose a couple hours sleep. So the last fire watch before reveille had to make sure that the DIs and all they were up, and so that started about 0500. Now, early on, you'd stay in the rack probably till 0500, but it became obvious if you wanted to hit the head and shower and shave and be standing, you had to be, when that DI said right face, you better be standing in that formation out in the street. And that didn't give you very much time, so you learned to get up a little bit early.
With 3 S's.
Yeah.
To take care of business. Then you
Quickly.
ran, had a little warm-up exercise there before you went to the chow hall, which usually that was just it wasn't much of a, it was like maybe 30 minutes. Wasn't really calisthenics. And we went to the chow hall, and of course that in itself was a whole new experience when you first get to boot camp. You move through the chow line, your tray's there, and you're sidestepping, your head straight in front, and you walk through there, and they put whatever they were serving, they slopped it on there. You didn't just go to a table and sit down. You went to the table and you stood there with that tray at attention till everybody got around.
Everybody got there.
And that DI would get over there and he'd say, "Ready? Get up!
Yeah.
Too slow, you maggot." Anyway, after he played with you about 3 or 4 times like that, you'd get to sit down. Of course, you never had enough time. I'm sure you're familiar with this too. You never had enough time to eat everything that's on there.
Get ready to eat, and he says, "Let's go."
Yep. And you
Yeah.
dump the rest of it out in the
Yeah.
GI can as you go out. But the funniest thing, of course, you learned that wasn't quite so funny either, was this was like the first week there. You march, which wasn't much marching, but you march to the chow hall, stop, and after he dresses you down about how lousy you are at close order drill.
Where
then he
everything is
says,
that, man.
"All you walking Dempsey dumpsters to the rear of the chow line." That's some fat bodies. The first time he said that, I thought it was funny. But that was probably the last time I laughed at camp. While everybody else is in there eating chow, I'm out there doing
Push-ups.
well, bend and thrust. That was his
Yep.
favorite.
Yep.
Favorite exercise to do that. Then you go. We'd run some more. Then they'd take you out, and they like to say, we'd go work the garden. Well, I don't know how many people are familiar with South Carolina, but they got these little plants there that they call sand spurs. And of course, working the garden included hitting the ground, flopping over, jumping up. So you do that for about 30 minutes till you got sand spurs everywhere. Then you run some more, and then you go to class where they start teaching you a few of the basics, like how to salute,
Right.
how to stand at attention,
Right.
and I'm trying to think early on.
General orders.
Yeah, general. Oh God,
yeah.
general orders. You better know those general orders.
Yeah.
Everything you can't remember at the time.
Exactly.
You never recall it when they ask you. You never recall it.
Never.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you hit the drill field, the grinder.
Right.
And, you know, I never walked or marched so many miles, did so many steps, and never got any place than I did on that grinder. I bet we marched 10 miles and you didn't go past the city block. Then after
I
that,
never thought of it that way, but you're right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
yeah, you just,
yeah.
and you never could. Never, especially early on, you couldn't satisfy a DI.
No.
But when we did our DNC drilling ceremony, you can mess it up and think that no one's watching you, but there's always that one drill sergeant or
Oh,
DI
you
in the
gonna
back.
get caught? Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're,
It's
that's it, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they got eyes in the back
Yep.
of their head. I'm a confirmed believer.
Right, right. I tell you, the caveat what you said, Paul, is no one, and people don't understand until you've been in it. I don't know about y'all, the chow hall can't hold a max capacity, so you have to wait outside the chow hall.
Correct.
You've never been so hungry in your life when you're standing at great rest
Right.
or attention,
Right.
and you can smell the food.
Right.
Yeah.
Knowing you get like 5 minutes to eat.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
5 minutes
Yeah.
is, I think the longest our DIs ever gave of us was 7 minutes. But most of the time it was 5. 5 or 6 or even less. And if you, as Paul said, if everybody didn't hit the chair at the same time, you
Oh,
went
yeah.
through that 2 or 3 times, it'd just take you to get out.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it was probably the same way with you, you know, in the Army, but if one guy screwed up, the whole platoon,
Everybody paid for it.
Everybody paid the
Everybody
price.
paid.
And they made sure, the DIs did, that the rest of the platoon knows who screwed up.
Right.
and would
Yeah.
cause them that.
Really, sir, second platoon, you get up, you're done.
Right.
Our problem was we always had some clown, like when you're dead, you've done your day, you're dead. You go into your Quonset hut, everybody, you know, you're standing attention, all right, hit the rack. So everybody hits the rack, turn out the lights, and nobody's supposed to say a word. And inevitably, some idiot.
Mhm.
Well, and DIs walk around looking back windows of the Quonset hut. So now everybody's back on their feet out there.
Doing
Yeah,
push-ups or
on your
squat
knuckles.
thrusts, yep.
You ever have to do any of
Oh,
that
yeah.
on your knuckles?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we're out there doing that for I don't know how long, and then go back in there, but there ain't no more talking.
Yeah.
No more whispers. But yeah,
Where you guys had Quonset huts, we had squad bay.
Right.
And it was a 4-2 vintage
Yeah.
squad bay. Second training battalion is what I was in, 229. Training platoon 229. But the DIs, the squad bay's here, and it was like a H. You had 4 training platoons in this one building.
Right.
And the DIs had this middle part. Well, they could look out of their
Yeah.
quarters into the windows of the squad bay. Well, like John said, there's always some idiot
gonna say something.
gonna do, he gonna talk or
Mess
do
up,
something like
yeah.
that, and then
Oh, man.
here they come.
Yeah.
And that was like that at Hollywood too, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
experience pretty much?
Yeah, but
We
we didn't have air conditioning, did we?
Oh, God,
Dwight?
no.
I didn't think so. I don't remember that.
I know South Carolina had air conditioning.
Right.
Yeah, we had the Quonset huts, which is World War II vintage
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
And Paul was talking about the work in the garden.
yeah.
There's nothing but sand in San Diego.
Yeah, yep.
So, you know, you go out, our version of work in the garden was raking that sand to make all the lines perfectly straight, perfectly parallel, and if somebody dropped a chewing gum, and it wouldn't be obviously been a recruit, but somebody messed up with those lines, any way, shape, form, or fashion, you got to redo the whole thing again. It's, you know, he'd put the whole platoon out there doing push-ups or squat thrust or something, and then you'd have to go back and redress everything. But
You talk about the chow hall. we would come out, and this guy had got caught with food. And he was a little chubby fella, and they had him a boiled chicken, and he was eating that chicken and doing squat thrusts in that sand, one-handed. And
Yeah.
I felt sorry for him. You know, I didn't laugh at that one. There was another. These two guys got caught doing something nobody knew. We were on the parade field, and they were standing up in front of the building, and one of them would squat down, and he'd go, "I'm a shitbird." He'd come up, and the other one would go down, he'd say, "Me too." And it's going like, "Yeah, I'm a shitbird, me too, I'm a shitbird." And I got in trouble for that, for laughing. I couldn't keep from it. You know? And, yeah, it's, boot camp was, it was something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
something.
My version of your guy that's having to eat the chicken was, you know, every morning they'd call for anybody that needed to go to medical. So every platoon had a, you know, sick bay queen,
Yes.
they called them.
Yeah.
And I really felt bad for this kid. I mean, he was a small statured kid, really had no business in the military, especially in the Marine Corps boot camp. He probably didn't weigh more than 115, 20 pounds, you know, 5'6", 5'7", and I really got to where I felt bad. About 3 weeks in, he had been going to the sick bay every morning and every afternoon. And we came in from running one morning, and our senior DI, the grizzly bear that I talked about earlier, had him in the middle of the squad bay, or middle of the Quonset hut, with a bucket over his head, running in place, singing the Marine Corps hymn. And he had us all gathered around him in a circle. We were about 3 or 4 deep. And when he told him to halt, the kid didn't halt on the correct foot, so he had him do it again. I don't know, for several more minutes. Anyway, when he finally got him stopped, he had him take the bucket off his head, and he had been dry shaving under that bucket. Yeah, I don't think the kid had pubic hairs, let alone a whisker. I mean, seriously, I mean, I really, really felt bad. And he looked like somebody had taken an ice pick to his face, boy. I mean, he was just cut and gouged. And we went off to chow at lunch, and we came back, and his bunk was cleared out. He was gone. Fortunately for him.
Yeah, probably the best thing ever happened to him. If he had went combat or
Oh,
something,
they'd have killed him
never
before he
made
got
it.
out of boot
Yeah,
camp.
yeah.
I don't know in the Army whether they had it or not, but in the Marine Corps, or at least on Paris Island, they had, for people like that or any other thing that people couldn't adjust at that time, they didn't just throw you out and say you're unable to adjust to military life. They had the motivation platoon.
Yeah.
And he may have gone to one, I don't
And the
know.
motivation
We never saw him
platoon,
again.
Yeah, he might
They
have,
were-
yeah.
The smallest DI I saw out there stood about 6'4" and about 250 and zero fat.
Right.
And when we fell out in morning formation, you'd hear them going around the island. They were
Yeah.
already out there running. And those guys would stay there until those DIs decided that they had adjusted them enough that they could go back. Then they had to go to another platoon. They didn't go to the one they come out of, because they may have been
They
in that
started over
motivation
again.
platoon 4 weeks. So they put them in, and we picked up one of those guys like that. And he had been on Paris Island. Boot camp when I went in was 13 weeks. That was Marine Corps boot camp.
Right.
He had been on Paris Island for 7 or 8 months. And we were still 2 months out, or almost 2 months, for us to graduate. And we picked him up, and he finally graduated with our platoon. But you didn't leave. Wasn't none of that. Well, he just can't hack military life, so we're going to turn him loose.
All the ones that, so they had a recycle, they will recycle them, and they send them, I think they send them back to reception, I think that's where, because of the fat boy platoon, what it is.
Yeah.
All the ones who tried to leave and get out, and I don't know if you guys had AWOLs then, a lot of them, but the ones, I don't even know where it happened, all of our AWOLs, I have no idea how they got off Fort Benning, or where they went to. It's a
Was,
We had one.
see,
I don't
Harris
remember any.
Island was an island,
right.
and they told you right quick when you got there, you said there's one way on and one way off.
And we got it covered.
And we know and we not only, you're not getting off, but we know if somebody comes on this island. If you, in other words, you ride home and tell mama you need a congressman up here, that they're abusing you,
Right.
they knew before anybody got on that island.
All the ones who try to leave, whatever the injury, you know, they were still there when I graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They we'll get to you when we get to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the bad details, those real bad details.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that you don't want.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man.
Motivation.
I don't know whether I ought to tell this or not on here, but it was one of the funniest.
Go ahead.
You know how later on, this is further down in boot camp, we'd probably been there 7, 8 weeks or something like that.
Right.
We were looking toward graduation by this time. And in the evening, the big thing was, if everything went good that day, the DI was in a good mood, you'd get in this school circle in the middle of the squad bay and for mail call. And, you know, and he'd look at those letters, you know, and if it was a girlfriend that smelled good, you know, he always had some kind of catty remark made.
Yeah.
This one night, this old boy had a girlfriend. I guess she thought it was going to be real cute. She wrote him a letter and put these little dotted lines around the edge. Says, "Too open, chew on dotted lines." That DI, he had a field day with that, boy. But the funniest thing I started to tell, like I said, I don't know whether I should or not. We were there one day, and this DI comes in, and he is livid. We're standing at the foot of a rack at attention.
Right.
He calls this guy's name. Center of the squad bay. Aye, sir. Gets him up there. He said, "Did you write your girlfriend a letter?" We were like 2 weeks from graduation, maybe less than that. And, "Yes, sir. Joe Instructor so-and-so." He said, what did you tell your girlfriend? I don't know, girlfriend. He said, "Did you tell your girlfriend that when you got home not to bother wearing any panties?"
She wasn't gonna deal.
This idiot wrote his girlfriend that. She shows it to one of her friends, who tells her mother, who calls the mother of this girl, who calls the congressman.
Oh.
Holy cow.
And this dude's 2 weeks or less from graduating, and I hadn't seen him.
Wow. Dang the luck, huh?
Yeah.
What I love about it is there's a million of the stories.
Yeah.
There is.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all the basic
Oh,
things.
yeah.
You think about how far you came from the start of
Oh,
basic
yeah.
gang to, what was graduation like for you?
Oh,
It was a big deal.
It was awesome.
It was
Yeah.
it was one of the proudest moments at that time in my life,
Right.
you know, and
You had,
yeah.
Now,
you
y'all-
had competition between the platoons.
Right.
Mhm.
You had the number one in the Marine Corps was shooting that rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you could shoot, it covered a multitude of sins. That was and each whatever platoon won it got this streamer for their guide on.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That was the most coveted one. And then you had some others I don't remember, but I do remember close order drill.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I remember that, we had this one dude in our platoon that just could not stay in step. Now, we're talking weeks and weeks into boot camp, and he still couldn't stay in step.
Couldn't get it down.
So this DI takes him out and puts him in a Dempsey dumpster and hides him out while we're competing. Close order drill, and it's about 110 out there. You can imagine what it was like in that
Oh.
Dempsey dumpster. But it was a big deal. You were proud as a peacock.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very, very tall.
Yeah, it was. our platoon ended up being honorary out of the company, so it's like
Oh,
like
yeah.
Paul said, it's a huge deal.
Yes.
I got in that competition thing cost me. We had my DI. I was a pretty good shooter, and so he and this other DI from one of the other training platoons bet. We had a bet who could win that shooter, and he beat me by about 1 or 2 points. It's a good thing that we were almost out of boot camp.
He'd have sent your butt back, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it was hard to live around him because he bet a fifth of whiskey or something on that competition, you know.
Right.
Even on good days, they're hard to live with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just graduated, so what was it like graduating in California? A lot of movie stars and everything?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They came and give
Hey,
us
we
all
were
our
the movie
autographs.
stars, wasn't we?
Yeah, we were.
movie stars,
You know, they
yeah.
televised it nationwide.
Y'all had sunglasses
We made
on.
fun of Paris Island.
My head was so big, who gives a crap about a movie star?
Isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Brand new boot?
Marine, no.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
were Marines.
Tough.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but our senior drill instructor didn't call us Marines until morning of graduation.
Right. He wasn't a Marine.
You were not. You were not.
And that was another thing that made you proud when he finally said Marines instead of recruits or privates or maggots.
Maggots or
Right.
shit.
Yeah, we were maggots right up till the end.
Did y'all, what was y'all's culminating event? For us, we did a road march out, which was about, I think it was like 20 hours, 25 back. That's the big one. Coming back, getting out there wasn't bad. Coming back, did all this training. You did a 25-mile back, and they took you into this area. And it was mostly a parade field, and you got your canteen cups, which is one of the best tools the military period has ever had. And we get to drink grog when you get your blue forward. That was like our moment for us. Then about 4 days later, you graduated. Y'all have something like that?
We had
I think
a
they got the
reviewing.
crucible.
They had a reviewing stand,
Okay.
and they'd have the commanding general of the
Right.
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
base
that's
and
right,
all
yeah.
that, and then that was the one time you could bring in family,
Yes.
and everybody's in that reviewing stand, and of course all these platoons pass in review, and then you're recognized by the commanding
As
general
Marines, yeah.
as Marines.
Right.
But we did a lot of calisthenics and a lot of physical training like
Running.
that,
Running.
and learn to shoot. But we didn't do any infantry training to speak of in boot camp.
Right.
We went to ITR, which
Right.
is
Yeah.
Another 12, 13 weeks.
infantry training regiment, and that was up at Camp Lejeune.
Yeah, so ours was basic, so you stayed the whole time at Benning. So for infantry, you go to basic training, then you graduate to AIT.
Okay, we had
Which is where you
okay,
get
we
your
had that
infantry- Your
too.
basic infantry tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you think you're basically, John J. Rambo. So.
Yeah,
John Wayne.
Yeah, just enough to get your ass kicked. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, we got the real John Wayne right here.
Yeah.
But that's what I meant by that. That was our culminating event. So I guess they call it School of Infantry now?
Well,
Yeah.
they may now.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
School of Infantry.
Yeah.
SOI.
So
Is
ours,
it? They changed.
Yeah.
you really didn't have the reason you kind of knew of a break, like you got a 3-day pass. This really wasn't a 3-day pass. Because by the time you got released and got up there.
Yeah.
And it was more like probably about a 24-hour pass.
Well, see, we were supposed to get a boot leave after infantry training,
Right.
and it was, but I remember when I went through, they had a backlog of troops trying to get through that ITR and advanced and AIT. So they assigned us to ship details
Right.
out while we're waiting, about 2 or 3 weeks where you couldn't have your boot leave because you hadn't been through ITR yet. So I got assigned to after about first week, I really got a break. I got assigned to the armory.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember so well, we had this corporal was in charge of the part of the army I was working for him. He'd come in every day. He was about to get out of the Marine Corps. And he'd come in and tell you how short he was. He said, I'm so short I could sleep with a matchbox and fold it up on me. All this stuff. Every day you'd hear this. Well, about a week after I'd been working for him there, he'd come in, he was slamming, throwing, cussing, raising. What's wrong with you? They had extended him because they had that brush up down there in Cuba or not Cuba, but the Caribbean. I guess it was Haiti or Santo Domingo or somewhere down there. They were having a problem, so they wouldn't release him. That was fun.
He was hard to live with, wasn't he?
Oh, he was pissed.
We went straight out there. I don't know about you, but I think they bust us out to the next day after graduation, if I'm not mistaken. We had one family day.
I think we got 3 days after we graduated. 3 days, and then went into that training. Go down, go through the little trail with the little grass huts on each side. You know, really killer stuff. But my 3 days, I went out. You're gonna love this, Paul. Went to Hollywood. Never been to Hollywood, so I went to Hollywood. And, you know, and that was enough of that. Yeah, it was. That was it on that. And then I went home for 20 days. Is that what we did? Did we?
I got 10.
I thought
10?
it was 15.
I don't know. I think I got 10.
15,
Ended up having to go back to.
But then we got back over there and got on the big plane. You know, got to go see the exotic plane.
So, up to this point, we've gone through all basic training. We're getting ready to report for our first units, right?
Right.